Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Megan. I'm the sales manager here at Global Base Camps. I hope that everyone listening in is safe and healthy. And thanks again for taking the time this morning. We've all had a lot of time lately to reflect and reminisce, which is in part what inspired this webinar series that we'll be hosting. Not only did I think it would be fun for our travel experts at Global Base Camps to share some of our favorite travel experiences with you, but also selfishly, it also offers us an opportunity to think back and reflect on some of our most treasured travel memories. In addition, I thought it would be a very fitting topic given the history of Global Base Camps. I often get asked by both clients and friends where the name Global Base Camps came from. Long story short, when we started the company nearly 13 years ago, our focus was initially on showcasing the world's most unique lodging, from heritage city hotels to far-flung safari camps, yet all like-minded in their commitment to sustainability and responsible tourism. Over the years, as you all know, we've evolved and now provide our travelers with unique handcrafted custom itineraries, yet have always remained passionate about the properties that we recommend and that play a vital role in each of our trips. Therefore, in this first series, I wanted to go back to our roots and have our travel experts share some of our most beloved properties with you from our eyes. That being said, I'm up first. If any of my travelers are joining us today, then you're well aware that when I'm passionate about something, I can talk for ages. So I'm going to keep this presentation short and sweet to allow plenty of time for Q&A towards the end. So please feel free to submit questions at the bottom of the screen using the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to address these questions after the presentation. So that being said, let's get on with it. I have been a traveler since I can remember, and I've had incredible opportunities to visit some of the world's most breathtaking places on the planet. So zeroing out just one property was an incredibly challenging task, as there have just been so many, and I'm truly grateful for all. But there is one that is just so special and so unique that I'd be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to share it with you all today. In 2018, after an amazing 2 weeks with family and friends visiting some of my other favorite properties in Kenya and Tanzania, I extended the trip to visit a very remote camp called Greystoke Mahale, which is located in Western Tanzania on the banks of Lake Tanganyika in the Mahale Mountains National Park. To get here, I traveled by light aircraft for about 4 hours from Arusha, stopping in Tabora for a refuel and loose stop. After landing at the airstrip, we then continued by boat for about 1.5 hours to this iconic property. To have already traveled so far just to get to the continent of Africa, many people would wonder why travel and pay for that much longer of a journey. Before staying here, the answer was simple: to see the chimpanzees. Mahale is home to one of the largest populations of wild chimps and one of only 2 camps in the park that have access to a habituated community of chimps known as the M Group. A team of Japanese researchers have worked in these mountains studying the chimps for over 50 years. And so the M Group is very much accustomed to human presence. The opportunity to observe humans' closest living relatives in the wild is something truly remarkable. In addition, all of Greystoke Mahale's guides have had a member of their family involved with the chimps in some capacity since they were young. And there is nothing these guides don't know about the characters, politics, and history of this fascinating community. But after spending time at Greystoke Mahale, I realized that what makes this place so special is so much more than the chimps. After a day of trekking in Mahale Mountains to observe the chimps, we went out for a boat ride and a refreshing dip in the gin-clear waters of Lake Tanganyika. While out on that boat, I remember clearly looking back to the shore of the Mahale Mountains in the background, just in complete awe, wondering where the hell I was. It certainly didn't feel like Africa, at least not the Africa that I knew, that I had experienced before. I couldn't figure out where I was. But at that moment, I realized I didn't care and that it didn't matter. It was pure magic. I had the same feeling that evening after dinner, sitting around the fire, having a nightcap under a canopy of stars with newfound friends, listening to the waters of the lake lap along the shore, literally in the middle of nowhere. The world had completely disappeared, and it was pure bliss. At camp, there are 6 thatched bandas that are open with ensuite bathrooms with hot and cold running water and flush toilets, so plenty comfortable. The bandas are spacious yet simple and true to the nature of the surroundings. The main area consists of a few lounge areas and a dining room. Meals are mostly communal, which only helps to reinstate the feeling that you and all of the, at most, I don't know, 12, 14 guests are stranded on an island, though it's not actually an island at all. You're likely to meet very interesting people as well, whether it be experienced travelers on a constant quest to discover the most remote corners of the world, or novice travelers looking for an adventure unlike any other with the means to do it. Which leads me to pricing. It's not cheap, but I don't think anyone has ever left Greystoke Mahale and did not think it was worth every cent. And more than likely, they went home, save every penny just to get back again. Due to flight schedules, there are 4, 5, and 8-day packages with pricing starting at about $2,300 per person during low season, which includes accommodation, all meals, most drinks, laundry, and activities. Premium drinks, park fees, and flights are additional, but keep in mind that because we are in such a remote area, flights are not cheap. Flights run about roughly $2,000 per person round trip from Arusha and operate on Mondays and Thursdays only. Activities here at Greystoke Mahale are going to include forest walks, boat rides, deep water swims, and of course, chimp trekking. As I mentioned earlier, the M group has been habituated, which means that during a 3-day stay with the expertise of the camps and park rangers, you're most likely to see the chimps at least once. However, I was lucky enough to see them all 3 days of my stay, even with some wet weather. I wanted to show you this video to give you a feel for just how close you can get to the chimps. It's remarkable and definitely not social distancing. I'm taking this video with my iPhone and no zoom. As you can see, the chimps are within feet of me and practically surrounding me. Depending on a number of factors, sometimes they'll just sit in one area for a while so that you can observe their behavior and how they interact with one another. And other times you follow them along the trail paths in the forest. Each trek permit allows you to spend up to 1 hour with the chimps. But if they're on the move, then the stopwatch is paused until you find them again. And so depending on where the chimps are and the weather conditions, the trek could last 3 to 4 hours, even if the permit allows for just 1. Anyways, I do hope that you have the chance to visit one day. I know I would love to show you the way. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. And at this time, I would like to open it up to any questions. Okay, it looks like we have a question from Allison. How many days would you recommend staying here? So again, due to the flight schedules, the option is 4-day, 3-night, or 5-day, 4-night, or you can combine the two to make it longer, to make it 8-day. However, I recommend, so 4-day, 3-night is minimum, and that's fantastic. But if you have the time and the means to do it, I do really recommend the 5-day, 4-night, just because that gives us, it'll give you a little bit more time, not only just to see the chimps. Of course, if they're, it's not guaranteed that you will see the chimps every single day. So in case if there is bad weather, in case the rangers cannot find them one day, that still just increases your chances the longer you stay. But also it's, again, just such a special, special place. And as much as you would like to say that you can go back again one day, there is so much more of the world to explore. So yeah, try to do the 5-day, 4-night package if you can. In terms of, we have one question about food. The food is phenomenal. You will have full breakfast, lunch, and dinner. are served, as well as a number of snacks, tea. But the food is very, very fresh. A lot of it comes from the local surrounding community, and they also do have food flown in from town when needed. But it's going to be very, very fresh. You're talking about lots of salads, wonderful sandwiches, great produce from the local communities, and you have both vegetarian. They can pretty much handle all dietary requirements. But again, due to the fact that it is so remote, we always recommend that you inform us of any dietary requirements well in advance. Very healthy, very delicious. Let's see, Steve asked, how does it feel when you pull up for the first time? Absolutely incredible. I mean, when you're planning for a trip, right, you're seeing the pictures, you're seeing the photos, you're talking to your travel specialist. You kind of have an idea of maybe what to anticipate. But I'm telling you that this picture that you're looking at right now, you're coming up from the left side of the screen. You're taking a boat up about an hour and a half. So you're just kind of looking at all of the different beaches and the landscape along the way. You pull around that bend, that little kind of a piece of land that's jutting out right before you see the camp. You pull around that bend, and all of a sudden you see that camp, and it is. I mean, it's really spectacular. Now, what you've traveled for 5 or 6 hours just that day alone, just to get here, and you know, again, you're wondering, is this going to be worth it? Is this going to be worth it? Right, the second you go around that bend and you see the camp and you see the staff and the guides, people waiting for you, waving at you as if you're on some deserted island. Though again, it's not an island. It's pretty incredible. How Henkel Smith asked, how kid-friendly is it? So great question. In terms of children 8 and over are allowed. However, if kids under 12 are not going to be permitted to view the chimpanzees, they're not going to be allowed to go on the chimp treks. So they'll have to stay back at camp, enjoy the beach, and then can go on the water, go on the boat, go for swims. One thing also, though, to keep in mind is that there are in the shallow parts of the water, which is right, at the shore, there are crocs and there are hippos. So you can't go swimming from the shore. You can't go running off from your banda onto the sand and right into the water. In order to go for a swim, you have to get on the boat and go into the deeper part of the lake, in the middle of the lake. Lake Tanganyika, second deepest lake in the world. So it gets very, very deep. So it is perfectly safe with your guide. When you go out, they'll let you know where you can go swimming, again, as long as weather allows. But that is something to keep in mind. That's another reason why the children have to be 8 and over. They otherwise it would just be too dangerous for them to be running close to the water. Otherwise, a wonderful, wonderful family experience. And the planes are going to be light aircraft planes, similar to, depending on the route that we're going to, depending on what national park we're connecting it from, they're going to be similar to like a Cessna Caravan. So they are smaller planes, so you have to be comfortable with flying on those lighter aircraft, smaller planes. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that depending on the weather, the water can be a little bit rough. That boat ride can be a little bit rough. For me, on my way in, it wasn't bad at all. On the way out, there was some rain, some storm, so it was a little bit rougher. So definitely maybe bring some Dramamine if you get motion sickness at all. Let's see here. Valerie asks, how easy is it to combine with another trip? From which of the other trips? Great question. Again, traveling so far to Tanzania, I highly recommend that Greystoke Mahale, something like Mahale, is combined with maybe a safari circuit in Tanzania. Kenya as well can be combined, but let's just say in Tanzania, of course, you have the northern circuit, the northern parks, the famous Ngorongoro Crater, Tarangire National Park, and the Serengeti. So you can do a nice northern circuit, and then from the Serengeti, fly on to Greystoke Mahale. Ending the trip there gives you that water element. So many people want to have a beach element at the end of a safari, but this is, again, while you're not on an ocean, and while it's not an island, it definitely has that feel, yet also still gives you that wildlife and nature element. So that's a great combination. or if you're looking to get a little bit more off the beaten path and looking for lesser trafficked parks, we could do like a southern circuit, Sulu and Ruaha National Parks in southern Tanzania, and Katavi National Park, which is very wild and remote in western Tanzania. So Katavi and Greystoke is another great combination. What type of meals, and also we have a couple questions about meals from Jennifer and John, both how is the food, what type of meals. So basically it's going to be very similar. It's because, I mean, of course they're going, this is going to be a, you know, the camp here is for tourists. It's going to be food that we are, for the most part, very much accustomed to eating. Again, great produce, wonderful salads, some meat dishes, chicken, fish, and then you are going to also have sandwiches, pastas, things of that nature. So things that we're definitely more accustomed to. They have a couple of local dishes and that they try to kind of infuse or incorporate maybe as a side dish. But yeah, for the most part, it's going to be foods that are kind of, we're more accustomed to eating. Again, everything, the produce is incredibly fresh. The camp manager there, she loves food. So it's you're going to be eating very well and very healthy, I should add. Let's see else, recommendation in terms of combining Mahale with other African destinations. Ali, I just mentioned that it's great to incorporate including some other northern parks as well as southern parks in Tanzania. If Kenya you wanted to do, you can go up and do a Kenya trip first, which would be wonderful, doing some safari in Kenya. And then from Nairobi, you'd fly down to Arusha or Kilimanjaro International. And then we can fly you over to Western Tanzania. Combining, I usually like to recommend, I mean, of course, doing the chimps with Uganda and Rwanda and to do the gorillas, that's a wonderful combination too. We just have to be careful about the international access points, of course. I always like to recommend, you know, you can combine Eastern Africa with Southern Africa, certainly, but unless you have lots of time, and I always prefer slow travel. So I like to recommend kind of focusing on narrowing the focus a bit. So spending more time in Eastern Africa. If you're looking to get a little bit more off the beaten path, see some of the main highlights like Serengeti, it's phenomenal, but combining that with some maybe lesser traffic parks like Katavi, and then of course Greystoke Mahale. I mean Serengeti National Park, just to give you an idea, I mean we see well over 100,000 tourists, and maybe it's even closer to 200,000 tourists per year who are coming through Serengeti National Park, whereas Greystoke Mahale Mountains National Park is, you know, a few hundred maybe at most in a year. So, you know, it's very remote. It's very special because there are just limited options, limited accommodation options. It is not cheap and it's difficult to get to. A lot of people don't want to spend that time getting all the way to such a remote national park once they've already spent, you know, 20 plus hours traveling internationally. Tad asks, how long is the flight to get there from Arusha? It's going to take about 4 to 5 hours. If I remember, my flight was about 4 hours. And you stop at Tabora airstrip for a refuel and a chance to get off the plane and use the bathroom. There's no bathroom on these small light aircraft planes. So yeah, again, it's a bit of a long journey. It's going to be shorter if you're flying from Katavi or from Serengeti. Julie asks, when is low season and what type of weather can one expect in low season? Great question. Okay, so I recommend visiting during the dry season, right? And the dry season runs from June to October. During this time of year, the chimps are going to be probably easier to see as they come down to the lower slopes. It also means that because it's drier, the terrain is less slippy, and it's it's easier to grip. So dry season not only is the drier weather, but it makes it for easier hiking conditions. Could also mean that it's easier to spot and locate the chimps. November to March is the green season, though, and it's perfectly timed to visit that time of year. Everything is fresh, green, flowers are in bloom. So I do love green season in Africa. It just might, just to keep in mind, it might take a bit more effort to track the chimps during this time period. So for anybody who is, you just need to be reasonably fit to do these treks. But again, if you're at all kind of concerned about your physical abilities, and then of course dry season is going to be better, because the hikes shouldn't be as difficult and they shouldn't be as long as they might be during the green season. If you're super active, super fit, green season, then it's going to be no problem. Also, that means you can take advantage of some low season rates. That means that you could see up to a savings of about 45% compared to the high season. So definitely worth considering. Also, note that camp is closed in April and May. How many chimps are in the troop? In the community of the M group has currently, I think, about 60. But the whole of Mahale Mountains National Park is home to around 1,000, more than 1,000 chimps in total. But again, that M group has been studied, has been habituated by the Japanese researchers. And so therefore, that's why we have the opportunity to go and observe them. When is low and high season? What's the weather like? Okay, so low and high season I just mentioned. In terms of what the weather is like, it's always warm, and especially, and also somebody had asked me, I think previously, about the weather, the temperature of the water. In the water temperature at the surface ranges from like low 70s to low 80s, depending on season. So it's warm around the year in this part of the world. Again, the main difference between kind of the low, the green season and the high season is going to be, as we're in the high season, the dry season, the weather does get warmer and warmer as you move from June to October. So in October will be the warmest. Also, then we see more rain start in the green season, and that's going to be about it. But seeing some of the, and that can also, mean some more humidity. But then seeing the, sometimes when you see the storms kind of across from the lake with the Congo in the background, I mean, it's just spectacular. So again, having that, I recommend the green season. I still recommend, but just knowing that those treks might be a little bit more challenging. And make sure you just bring some good high quality boots with good grip so you don't slip and slide around in the forest there. Another question about best time to go. I think I just mentioned that. What do you recommend packing, Jennifer? That kind of just is kind of a good lead in from what I was just talking about in terms of the seasonality. You are going to, when you are hiking in the forest, seeing the chimps, you are going to be, you're in the forest under canopy. So that means there are, lots of bugs, lots of, kind of creepy crawlers around you. So I always recommend bringing some either good, sturdy trekking kind of sneakers, or higher trekking with good tread, good traction. And then also bringing long pants. You'll want to walk in long pants to make sure that you're kind of covered up, that your legs are covered up, especially if you're walking through any kind of wet, puddly areas, or have gaiters or long socks to tuck your pants into. On top, and I think in a couple of pictures that you saw of me out there hiking, watching the chimps, it's fine to wear a tank top. It's hot, it's humid, it's warm. So you can wear a tank top, but also it's nice to be covered up just in case if you walk by any branches so you don't get scraped up with a lightweight long sleeve shirt. I always recommend, they're going to give you also saw probably very fitting for these times. I was wearing that mask over my face, and that's because they give you that at camp. They give you the mask. In order to reduce waste, they give you one mask that you should hold on to for the duration of your stay. But that's because since we're the closest living relatives to the chimps, that is to protect them. so that we do not pass on any illnesses to the chimps. So they provide masks. You don't need to worry about bringing your own, of course, unless you want to. Otherwise, sunscreen, bug spray. Definitely you want a bathing suit to go swimming in that water. It is just amazing and so refreshing after a hot, humid trek in. Of course, if you want to bring a rain poncho or a lightweight rain jacket, because it is hot and humid, so very lightweight, breathable rain jacket, great. They also have ponchos that they are happy to give to you that will fit over your entire body and then fit over your backpack as well. Again, because of the heat and the humidity, those can get kind of uncomfortable, but at least it does protect you from the rain if you get any kind of quick rain showers during your hike. Do you recommend staying at Greystoke Mahale before or after your Tanzania and Kenya safari? You know what, either or. Sometimes, you know what, availability might contribute to this, because again, there's only 6 bandas, so there's limited capacity here. But so that might play a role. But if you have free reign in terms of organizing your trip, I kind of like the idea of doing it at the end. The reason why is because, again, kind of a lot of people like this idea of ending on an island, going to Zanzibar, going to Pemba Island, relax, ending your safari with a few relaxing days. Because let's be, honest, sometimes safaris can get, a little tiresome and dusty, so it's just to ending with a few relaxing days by the water is always kind of a nice way to end the trip. And again, because Greystoke is so special, that it would be, wonderful ending to your trip. Keeping in mind, though, that the return trip, again, you're going to be spending 5 to 6 hours to get back to Arusha or Kilimanjaro International Airport, which is your place of departure. So there's, you might want to. I flew out the same night after coming back. So it was a long travel day, but I'm used to that. Being in the travel industry, I'm used to that. So, but for other people, you might want to consider, after going back to Arusha, maybe staying one last night in Arusha town before flying out internationally. How much time Paula asked, how much time do you spend with the chimps and how far do you check to find them? So again, that really is kind of based on seasonality. During the dry season, the chimps do tend to come lower to the lower elevations. So you can actually, you might only hike in 30 minutes and then see them. Whereas other times, if it's raining, if they're kind of a little bit more spread out, then it could take 3 to 4, maybe the whole trek in the whole experience takes, half a day, 3-4 hours. In terms of mileage, you're typically not trekking too far in terms of distance. It takes a while because you go slower, and because also if the chimps are on the move, you pause the stopwatch. So you get 1 hour. The permit allows you to have 1 hour observing the chimps. If they could be in one place and you just spend 1 hour just sitting there watching, observing, taking photos. Or if they are on the move, then you might start walking. And when you start walking, you pause. Then when you find them again, then the stopwatch starts up again up until it's an hour. The good thing to note, what happens is, so you wake up in the morning and you go to breakfast, and when you get to camp on your arrival day, they will always ask you to they will always kind of inform you of how it will play out, how your stay will play out. So, but basically what happens is, in the morning when they give you the wake up call, you come down for breakfast, and they tell you to come prepared to spend the day out. So you come with your camera, you come with your backpack, or you come with all of your clothing, and then you sit there and you're having breakfast. Now the rangers are already out looking for the chimps. Once the chimps are spotted, they call that into your guide, and then they come to you at the dining room and at breakfast, and they say, okay, we found the chimps, we're going now. That could be first thing in the morning, and you have to scarf your muffin down real quick, or you might be waiting 2 to 3 hours until you get the call. We got to go, we found the chimps. So the rangers go out first. They locate the chimps so that they know where they are, and make sure it's an accessible area for guests, and then that's when you head out. So some of it is a little bit of a waiting game in the mornings too. Valerie's asking about specific health concerns, vaccine shots, medications. Yes, so great question. So the only thing you really need to be worried about, if you're coming from Kenya, then you do need to have a yellow fever immunization. If you are just staying in Tanzania itself, you do not need yellow fever immunization, but you should consider malaria. There are certain parts of Tanzania that do have malaria, so we always mention, discuss with your doctor if you what your options are for malaria preventative medications. But that's about it. Other animals you see besides the chimps? Great question. So what we have here in terms of other wildlife in the area, you have a wonderful variety of primates, baboon, and it's just wonderful, wonderful. Lots of monkeys, different species of monkeys. It's fantastic. So primates and bird life. That's primarily what you're kind of seeing. But again, there's hippos and crocs in that water. So you do some, you're not going to necessarily see them when you're going out on boat rides into the depths of the lake, but there's some kind of canals nearby camp that you can go on these boat rides through these canals with trying to see the croc and the hippo. There's some bush buck, and there's even a few elusive leopard. I did not see any. They are hard to see, but they are theirs. But yeah, so that's pretty much about it. So it's basically lots of primates, bird life, hippos, crocs, and then of course the chimps. That is the main goal. We have another question about mimosas and drinks at Greystoke Mahale from Tad. Yes, you have plenty of, you have a full bar at your disposal, whichever you would like. Wonderful wine, mimosas, all different types of beer and alcohol. Again, those are all included in your package rate. The only thing that's additional are going to be premium brands. Henkel asked if you need a visa or just a passport. Tanzania does require a visa. You can get them in advance with an e-visa online. We'll be happy to send you all the information when you start planning your trip to Tanzania. It is $100 for American citizens. So, and passports need to have at least 6 months validity on them as well. And let's see what else. We had another question about do you have to start your day early? So yes. So again, typically in Africa, that's just how it works, is you wake up early, kind of almost when the sun rises. One thing to note with these bandas, they are open, but they do have these big curtains that they can close for your privacy. But I did it both. I slept the first night because I was a little, it's a new, you're just getting used to your surroundings, and, you feel a little bit awkward being so exposed. So I closed these big curtains to give myself a little bit more privacy and feel a little bit more enclosed on the first night. But then after second, third night, you get used to this, kind of barefoot luxury kind of island living, if you would. Again, not an island. And so then I slept with these big curtains wide open, so I was completely exposed. But so I'd wake up in the morning and through my mosquito netting, look out at the lake with the sun rising. It was phenomenal. So yeah, you typically just start your day early, whether or not you want to. But also somebody walks around at the first thing in the morning and they kind of yell at you, softly, "This is your wake up call," and they leave you some coffee or tea, depending on what you ordered the night before, on your front step. So when you're getting ready, you have some coffee and tea, and then you go on into the main communal area for breakfast, probably around 7 or 8. And again, the goal is that you want to get out there and see the chimps. So you're ready to wake up, because you want to make sure that you don't miss the chimps. Irma, good question about if you are a Mexican citizen, can you get a visa on arrival? So you know what, that's a good question. I might have to get back to you on that, because I'm not 100% sure what your visa requirements are if you have a Mexican passport. But there used to be a visa on arrival for all travelers, where you could get a visa on arrival for just you bringing $100 in cash. But they recently changed that, where now they're kind of required. It's still possible, but they're cute. The system is really, really hard. It's very challenging. The queues are really, really long. So we've been advising for, I don't know, maybe the past year, that clients that absolutely get that visa in advance, that e-visa in advance, in order to save a lot of time at the arrivals airport. So, so I think that I'm still going to want to recommend getting the e-visa in advance, but I'm not exactly sure about what the fee would be if you're a Mexican passport holder. So Irma, I'll have to get back to you on that. And I think that might be it, you guys. I had a lot of questions on what to combine this this Greystoke Mahale, this area of Tanzania with. Again, I love recommending the northern part of Serengeti. Is just one of those kind of iconic destinations in Tanzania. To see the migration is just amazing. Serengeti is one of my most favorite places because it's just kind of plains for as far as you can see. It's just expansive and incredibly beautiful. But again, it gets a little bit more crowded. So if you're looking to get away from from tourists and vehicle traffic, there's the fantastic southern parks, Selous and Ruaha in the south, as well as the wild and remote Katavi. Katavi combines really nicely with Greystoke. So it kind of just depends a little bit on what you're looking for. So I always recommend something different from each traveler. Again, feel free to reach out to me personally with any questions that you may have. And I'd be happy to help you with planning your trip to Tanzania.